All right. All right. Looks like we're good to go. Time for part two of this special streaming sessions, where again I'm reaching back into the past to edit some photos. This is a two-part series taken in 2005, based on an Amtrak trip from Connecticut to Philadelphia in time for a ski trip to the Poconos. Last time we did the probably want to turn that off. Last time we did the NEC portion. Today we're going to be looking at two interlocking towers I've briefly visited in the Poconos: East Stroudsburg and Gravel Place. Now these are on the former Delaware-Lackawanna Western Main Line between New York metro area and Scranton, continuing on to ultimately Buffalo. I'm not a huge DL&W person. Not that I don't like it. It's just I don't live in the area and I don't have a lot of the books or the resources. There's been a lot of good stuff online, but I'm still a little weak in this area. I'm going to be referring back when I did this stuff originally. I used the various just names. I just called them East Stroudsburg and Gravel Place. I think they had some earlier telegraph codes, but I wouldn't know what they were. Right now, I think I just need to actually go and find these. I'm probably going to have some station photos in along here that I got to dig out. My web space is still down. Don't know when it's going to be coming back. So that's going to be a bit of an issue. Don't think I really have any. Maybe I don't. Maybe I don't. Oh, let me see. Maybe I just listed them under the tower names. That's probably what I did. Meh. Don't see them. Don't care. All right. Anyway. So the point of East Stroudsburg versus Stroudsburg. Stroudsburg. I mean, I guess they're both fairly large little old coal towns. But the main line did only run through East Stroudsburg, West Stroudsburg being or Stroudsburg, I think, being on the other side of the river. Here's the location where I'm talking about. Stroudsburg there, it's on the I-80 corridor. The railroad, of course, made a right-hand turn to the north. Here's the downtown area where you have the tower and the station complex. And then right to the north, up here, you have Gravel Place, and that was an old junction and just an area. Just, the interlocking out of town. This was 4-track mainline, too, back in the day. So DL&W was one of the most profitable corporations for its time around the turn of the century. It was a pioneer, as I'm sure you all know, in poured reinforced concrete technology. I usually label things under Erie Lackawanna. I guess sometimes if it's clearly DL&W, I'll do that. Maybe like Hoboken Terminal or whatnot. But it just sort of I'll freeze it there at the Erie Lackawanna period. That's just makes things a little easier. I don't have a lot of content either way, so just being able to do it that way sort of groups it for me. This is, I think, looking at the former freight station on the pad. Now these have all been converted to non-railroad use. The tower is preserved as a museum. I don't know what the current deal is with it though. When it's open, what it's doing. Boy, that was dumb. So I was just sort of there early in the morning after I finished the ski trip and before I had to get all the way home. I'm also going to be working from, in addition to the tower being a museum, the whole railroad pretty much is from the Delaware the cutoff to, where is this? There it is. From the old Lackawanna cutoff to Scranton, because it's owned by the Delaware-Lackawanna Railroad, which is like one of those. We have all Alcos type of museums or short lines. So they're very fan trip friendly. Oops, where is that? So East Stroudsburg is indeed a what do you call it? A classic lever tower, wood framed, very remarkable that it wasn't demolished by Conrail. Actually, when the museum took it over, it was still had some of its pipelines connected to an abandoned piece of track, and they could even get a signal to display. So it was quite a remarkable achievement. Unfortunately, that was no longer the case because ultimately Conrail still owned the abandoned stretch of track. But in any event, just to be able to have that function was just pretty cool. So I'm just sort of going through here. All these I was biggest into towers before I was into other stuff. So I did a pretty good job with naming these. Towers also have the advantage of not having a lot of fiddly lever appliance numbers and such that I have to look up. As you can see, here are the pipelines where they exit the tower. You can see the cranks and a few of the push rods. Again, these photos were taken quite a long time ago, so I think that they've done a bit of restoration since then. I should just probably. There you go. I'm going to just grab the name that I used before and use them again. Should make this go pretty quickly tonight. Half the issues that I get are having to deal with naming. Yep, and here we have the cranks. So these rotate back and forth and then grab the pipelines as you can see them. And just have them go from there. Yeah, you can see how, again, back in 2005, I was still fairly felt constrained. I was using high compression rates, small size. This was a 9, so I'm definitely make sure I'm capturing the full, a more accurate resolution of the stuff I was taking. This was completely unnecessary there. I was going to probably just delete that. Where is it? There it is. Yep, this would have been some sort of well, I don't necessarily think this was manually cranked, but it could have been. That was a popular style at the time. It was a museum. I mean, it's been preserved for some time. I forget who owns it. I could look it up, but I mean, anybody can look it up. I still am not sure. I think it's only open haphazardly for tours and stuff. Although I could be wrong. There's a website. I'm not going to be. I mean, if I'm going to be in the area, I'd look it up, but I'm not. You can see in the photo here, waving American flags was still popular in the post 9/11 era. I mean, this is the middle of February. So, like I said, I wish I knew the history. I knew more of the history here. Well, I can go into it. So this tower eventually became the last active one in the area, housing the CTC machines of the DL&W main line, north and south, down to Slateford where the cutoff is, and north to some extent. Here's something interesting. Through a window in the old that little relay hut that you saw next to the tower, they still have a lot of the original relay shelves with shelf relays inside, which was really neat at the time. You know, I thought that was pretty cool at the time. It's a little hard taking a picture through the glass there, though. Just some odds and ends and pipeline maintenance stuff, or pipeline parts there. So anyway, yes, East Stroudsburg, despite being wooden and older than the some of the poured concrete ones nearby, ended up being the survivor. Now, generally, the concrete towers, it's no surprise that they survived, because that original poured concrete technology was damn near indestructible, as we will see when we head up to Gravel Place. So that sort of thing, you know, you're not surprised when those towers weren't knocked down, just because it would be so costly to deal with them. East Strouds, a lot of the towers in this area, especially on the DL&W line owned by Delaware-Lackawanna, the signal bridges have been preserved in place. So here we have one, which I believe is. So I don't. Hold on here. I have a thing up that should show it here on this interlocking towers resource page. They have the East Stroudsburg Tower. You know, this is how it looked at some point. This is well in the there's the in the Delaware-Lackawanna days when it was painted Lackawanna colors. You can see the switch right here, right out in front. That was the one that that signal. That was the they could still switch that switch and pop the signal and display a restricting on it. There's the relay hut that still has the relays right there, that white building. So when the museum first took charge of the tower, they could operate that switch. It was disconnected from the track segment was, but they could still operate that switch and display that signal. They still had power going to it, which was pretty amazing. But I think I have I don't have a diagram. I could find one online, but I really don't have it handy. And this is what it just looks like inside. And you can see it's a well separated interlocking machine with signal levers on either side, sandwiching switches and facing point locks. The interlocking was quite extended, which is why I got back to my point here with the signal bridge. Is that in addition to that one, there's another one a little bit more north of town. The one north of town. So here's the tower there. There's the crossing. And all of this would have been covered in tracks back in the day. There's one signal bridge, 4-track bridge. And here is the next one up. That might have been autos. I'm not sure. It's still, Lackawanna and Delaware-Lackawanna basically has left a lot of the original bridges up. I mean, Conrail before them. But this line really collapsed quickly in the 70s, this whole route, with the deindustrialization. Everything, so Conrail, as soon as Conrail came on the scene, they just sort of, there was no need to have two parallel main lines going through coal country to Scranton and then up to Buffalo. Okay, so that was a first flight of photos there. Let's delete that and go on to the next flight. Got 50 photos here today, but should be able to get through them pretty quickly. Whoops. Did I do one too many there? Never want to accidentally delete one. Huh. Huh. Alright, anyway. And the last one should have been that one. Not sure what happened here. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. And somehow I got to him. Alright. Doesn't matter. Sometimes you miss one. Not sure why. So what did I call this one? That back in the day. Anything? Here we go. Yeah, and you can see how like there was the there was stub trackage that was left in place when the Conrail took over the museum. These names aren't the greatest, but they'll go with what I have. So I'll do 13, I guess. Yeah. And move another 12 in. Here we go. Not sure everything's working properly. Looks like it. Got some people here. Say hi to the chat. No, I don't want to sign into chat. Ay, ay, ay. I hope I didn't knock anyone out there. I'm here. Okay, whatever. I'm just going to continue on. Hopefully the stream is working. Come on. Work. These streams seem to love ways to just like knock you off of them. There you go. I like the current color. It's a bit of an eerie color though, instead of a DL&W. Yeah, the DL&W like painting its towers in this sort of. They usually had a burgundy and some other things, but the green and lime green or light green or whatever kind of green you want to call that is, if you know the Erie painted F units, it looks just like those. So at least back in 2005, it was painted this sort of Erie railroad color. Is anybody here? Try giving the dashboard another thing here. Oh, did I sign to the wrong account? Yeah, I did. Yeah, there we go. Whoops. Alright, we're good. At least we got somebody here. Alright, moving on. I did try to get some zoom photos on the upper windows, just trying to see inside. It reminded me a lot of the work that they've done at Tuckahoe Tower in South Jersey for preservation-wise. Also, it's sort of remarkable. I mean, the tower had small windows to begin with, but it doesn't have obvious tower window syndrome. Tower window syndrome being where old Muntin windows are replaced by crappy little tiny replacement windows and a healthy amount of plywood. Where are we? Here we go. Look at the date on this photo set. What was it? 5/2/13. Wow, this was taken almost 13 years ago to the day. The station building here was a restaurant, and I believe it suffered some fire damage at some point. Although Google Maps shows it to be there still today. I'm not entirely sure if that's accurate or not. Yeah, I just... Back in the day, I lumped this in with the thing, but I'm gonna not lump that in with a tower anymore. I'm gonna give it its own name. So maybe I should go take a look at the old Google Street View or something to see what's up. On a satellite view, the building is definitely there, and there's a little crossing, but something doesn't look right. It looks like the looks like that's been replaced. I guess it did burn down. Let's see. Yeah, that's new. That's unfortunate. That looks original, but that is not. That, yeah, I guess it burned out in the center. So yeah, here's the tower is still painted in the eerie colors. Oh, can't go that way. But anyway, yep. So I think that's something original, but yeah, there's not much. That's original there, but it looks like the whole meat of the central structure has been turned into a condo. Maybe they're anticipating the once in future rail line to be built to New York there. Well, this poor station is no more, but it just shows you why you need to go out and get your photos. You never know when stuff's going to catch fire, especially wooden. What's left of the interlocking there? What an ironic name. Okay, now we're moving on to Gravel Place. Now, Gravel Place, like I said, was, you know, sort of the first interlocking out of town, going up the grade. I think this whole line in here is 4-track. Again, I know where the resources are to look at that. I'm not going to really pull them out for this. East Stroudsburg goes down for Gravel Place through the F's. Oops, don't go through too many F's. Where is it? There you are. So, I know it's hard to believe, but reinforced concrete was something that had to be invented. It was invented around the turn of around 1900, 1910 was when it was sort of perfected. Edison, he pioneered a line of houses, prefabricated houses, that actually looked a lot like these these DL&W interlocking towers. Now, when I say prefabricated, I assume that they just mean, they put up forms and pour your house. And there's a bunch of those Edison houses around, just like these towers, because they're devilishly hard to knock down. I mean, compare. You have to appreciate the quality of this concrete. You'd think that, look at highway bridges, and after 10, 20, 40 years, they're just, the rebar's all rusted. It's everything's deteriorated. But this is just, there's nothing wrong with this. Nothing. I mean, this has been abandoned for the better part of 60. Let's see. Gravel Place was closed in 1950 when according to the website, when the CTC, and then the CTC was moved to East Stroudsburg. But there we go. The way that this is just preserved is just all of these towers are well preserved. They're everywhere. And the detail, look, the corners are sharp of this. The corner, sharp corner, sharp. Everything's sharp. A little bit of deterioration on the edge of the roof. The roof is concrete, believe it or not. But no, these are great. Most of them are open. They don't really. They're not well secured because they're not a fire hazard. Just find this one. There it is. So you can get them in. You can get in these pretty easily. Getting to the second floor is often an issue because the stairs are gone. Or they had internal staircases, but again, they rotted out. It was an internal spiral staircase. You can see that when you're inside. Now, this was a mechanical, despite being all advanced, state-of-the-art Edison technology. It was a mechanical tower. I don't know what they all were. If some were power machines, but almost all the ones that I've seen have the little pipelines sticking out. The little pipeline holes in the base. So the implication is that they were mostly mechanical. All right, on to the next flight. Also about Gravel Place. Gravel Place is a well more defined interlocking. You have two surviving signal bridges on either side of the plant, and then you have it's clear where the crossovers would have been. This could have been something where you had the end of the sidings turning 4 tracks into 2, or just crossovers, or just some industrial access. So we have basement photos, and you can see how it was a lever frame, just because you have this massive iron beam supporting the weight of the frame. Many times when you have wooden towers, this beam here is what is literally keeping the tower up. That's what happened with Patchogue when they took out the lever frame. The tower turned into a rhombus, or a parallelogram, simply because it had no more structural rigidity. I'm going to give these, back in the day, I just labeled them inside 1 through like 6, but that's not very descriptive, so I'm going to give these better descriptive names. This is a soft one, though. This is the standard size. There was a compact version of tower like you'd see at where Montclair and Greendale had like half-size, half-width ones. But the standard size was this. And there's a jumbo like you have at West Standard Interlocking. Someone had strung a hose up in here, and there was a basement too. You can see there's a basement. This thing was just really neato. I gotta get back up there. I don't know. I haven't been up there in ages. Back when I was taking those yearly ski trips with a friend, I was there regularly. So now I haven't gone on those trips in quite some time because they sort of ended. But I really need to get back up to the Poconos just to poke, literally poke around these places. Here we are looking up through the lever frame hole. This is the big tip off. That it was a mechanical frame instead of a power frame. Plus the pipeline holes in the base of the thing. Even the window frames, I guess that's wood. I mean, at some point you need I got a nice swastika there. At some point you have to have a concrete window frame interface. I think I did this one before. Did I screw something up there? Oh, it's just like a dark version of the same photo. Derp. Didn't filter that out right. Alright. This is when I was noticing back in the day. I actually remembered the downsides of do I capture, or do I, if I have windows and stuff, it blows it out versus not blowing it out. So I was just starting to notice some of the trade-offs with my camera. Sometimes I would take two versions. But now, thanks to my basic understanding of Photoshop or Photoshop-related things, I usually just aim for the non-blown out one and then just lighten this stuff, because most of the times these yeah, so there you go. If you ever have an option, so here's some actual photography advice. If you have the option of shooting a darker frame where the light stuff isn't blown out, or blowing out the light stuff to get the dark stuff lighter, it's always better to go with dark. I mean, it's usually better to go with the darker because you're going to be catching the detail in there. And if you blow stuff out, you've washed out the detail. Even in a dark photo, you still have a lot of detail, and you can lighten that in post. So if you have a choice, I always usually end up using the darker stuff, unless it's like a photo where the background is sky or trees or something where it doesn't matter. Then at that point, who cares? But if you're in a building and you need to have a choice between blowing out blowing out light stuff or making the rest of it dark, go make the rest of it dark. This is a picture through that hatch into the basement where people have just thrown all kinds of junk. It's a shame we don't have high commodity prices right now, because nothing beats motivation for people to go to collect scrap metal. Now, see, here is the spiral staircase access. I don't know it's spiral staircase, but I mean, what else would fit in that little tiny square there? It's either that or a ladder. So now we're back outside the building. Yeah, a lot of the part of the, whoops, that's the wrong thing. A lot of part of the, this is still, for anyone who hasn't heard this spiel before, this was when bits were still not super cheap. So I was always having to be I was always reluctant to take tons of photos, because they didn't have, it wasn't home stores that was the issue, but it was hard to display them, and you know, when you only had 64 megabytes on your smart media card, you know, 90 photos, 600K each, you know, you were kind of, it wasn't much different than when I had analog film. A little bit different. I mean, I could review stuff for clarity. You know, here we have a telltale, even though it's a signal bridge, we have a telltale sign of Rule 251 operation with the two directional signals there for a 4-track line. For anyone who doesn't know, not that I'm doing a tutorial on this, the DL&W is a very unique signaling system. It was technically speed signaled. It had a reduced set of indications. It also used entirely 2 lamped heads. So you, on the top head, you would have green and red, and on the bottom head you would have like green and yellow. So you could do like red over green or yellow or green over, I don't know what you had. I gotta find it. But it was very restrictive. You didn't have a lot of his signal indications. Oh, getting down to it. Just got 2 more flights here. I can find it. The neat part is because they kept so many of the old signal bridges. Yeah, here we go. The top head had red and yellow, and the bottom had yellow and green. And they made use of a lot of empty heads. So dark over green is clear. There you go. Red over green is medium clear. Yellow over green, your approach medium. Top yellow is approach. Red over yellow is your restricting. So I mean, they kind of have the bare. I mean, this is like the bare minimum way to do signals. So I mean, you thought the PRR was chintzy. That lasted up into the Conrail. Wait, what? Oh, I didn't. What? What did I do? How they screwed this up? Yeah, whoops. Almost did the same flight test. We're on the last flight, it looks like. Here we go. Let's delete that. Grab these guys, throw them over there. There we go. But, yeah, the DL&W signaling scheme was just... It's like they weren't even running a railroad. So here I am. You know, when only 3x zoom back in the day, I really didn't have a lot of options when I came to something like this. Today, my cameras can reach right up there and take fine detail. But back in 2000, with my original camera, it was just almost like I had a cell phone. Zoom helped a little bit, but really not much. I might crop off these trees on this side. In homage of I used to be much more aggressive in my cropping just to get the size down, so I could fit in my web space. A major thing that I would get is people would bitch and moan whenever your photos were quote unquote too large. And when I was putting them on forums and stuff, because everybody was on their dial-up, so they would just complain and complain that your photos were too big. See, we have just what a wonderfully classic view of an interlocking signal bridge tower right in the middle, signal bridge. And even today, I like it when you have the signal instrument thing in the middle of the interlocking. A lot of railroads these days will put one at each signal bridge. I don't know how they tie with some data link in between. You don't even know where the actual thing is, and there's nothing in the middle. It just doesn't have the same sort of charm. Okay. Tower's a little crooked, but it's toward the edge. Yeah. So by 2005, despite despite some of the mistakes that I'm pointing out, I was getting pretty decent at doing this. Still a little bit. I don't know what my criteria was for size. I think I was trying to keep it under 200K. And as soon as I went, I know I definitely in 2006, I sort of abandoned that. And then when I got my new 10 megapixel camera, I was just like, screw, I just abandoned that old standard that I used. Here's a sort of what I would call a blown out picture. But as you can see, you can get a little bit back. Just got to find where it is. There it is. Get any people here? Still same old people. See, I actually got on to stream a little earlier today, but no one's around. Probably 'cause it's Sunday, it's a work night. So this is interesting if I can get it up here. So there, some of the specific pole line was still standing. And the neat thing you can see here is, in addition to the junction box for if it was a CTC machine or whatever, I bet the DL&W put the CTC hardware in that tower. I probably locked it up. You can actually see and it's labeled high voltage. There's your pole line tap for the power, pole line power. That'd be a 440 volt usually. And there's one little breaker. There's two little breakers. So yeah, that's cool. Oh, shoot. See if I can get the size down a little bit better here. Oh, here you go, and here the eastbound gantry is really nice and accessible from the road. I was just able to sort of to have my friend park the car, and I just got out and did my thing. Really no issue. And you can see some of the industry that was in the area that led to this being a thing. Gravel Place isn't actually the name of a town, although it did appear on some maps I have seen. Topo maps. USGS uses it, but besides that, it was a railroad term for the junction that was here. starting in 1910, or when well, I'm sure it was predated that. Well, we can show you where this is, actually. We just head right up the road, and it's just a bit out of town, right there. See, the bridge is still there, your factory's still there, interlocking tower is still there. Yeah, it's all still there as of whenever this was taken. I can even pop up the old street view for you guys. Oh, nope, no street view today, sorry. Anyway, yeah, it's still there. These really classic crossbucks were a nice touch, too. The name of the factory, whatever it is. National something. It's all fun. I love doing these. This is like a real blast from the past for me. Yeah, I don't know when these crossbucks date from, but they're looking a little elderly. What's going on in the chat here? Anybody around? Probably just me and one other guy. If you're still, if look out for the train is still there. I'm not sure what you mean by what system I use. That's an interesting little sign for the railroad. I guess if they have a diesel fuel spill, they just want the town wants them to call it in before all the groundwater gets contaminated. You know, again, with the lens that I had, I didn't have a lot, wide angle. I couldn't really step back in this one, so I had to sort of take things in I had to take this signal bridge in two parts. Didn't have any stitch type stuff available for me either. Coming down to it, 2 more photos left. And you can here we see the Delaware-Lackawanna main line. So they've done a really nice thing. You wouldn't think that the Poconos have any sort of industry, but despite massive deindustrialization, Pennsylvania still has all sorts of, they got a little bit of industry in a lot of little towns. A lot of it went away, but some of it stayed behind. And they had so many industrial areas, they still have a lot of it. And you can see here we have for the other ABS, 2 ABS signal posts. So yeah, I mean, pretty obvious this was a 4-track line. This was this was their how they climbed up the Poconos, whatever mountain range this was between here and Scranton. Well, this one pretty quick today. Probably because I didn't have to do a lot of research into the damn file names. So you can also see in my original one I didn't do a lot of slant correction. So, boom, there we go. Let's see. We're all here. Zap the originals. Badoom. I'll get this up. We're ready to go. So I think that was all I had to really show you. Just these 2 towers, just these 2 towers back that could pay. It's funny what passes for content back in 2005. I think that's pretty much everything I had. Like I said, this is a picture. I couldn't find the gravel place entry on that NorthAmericanInterlockings.com site. But it's a great place to visit if you're up there skiing. Stop in on East, see if East Stroudsburg is open. See if Gravel Place is still, go pop by Gravel Place. It is literally, coming from New York. It's just a few miles off of I-80. So, all right, let me just see if there's anybody talking here. Doesn't look like it. So, anyway, wow, it's been 54 minutes. Thank you, Guy, the one other person who's been watching me tonight. I appreciate it. I'm not sure when I'll be backing, but just FYI, I am going to be starting a pretty big project using photos I took on what I called my Farewell to the Three Rivers trip in 2005. This is going to be 6 parts. I don't know when I'm going to get around to it. I'm probably going to have to just do it over an extended period of time unless I wait till next Thanksgiving or Christmas. Wait, no, scratch that. Starting in May or June, I'm going to actually be able to stream pretty much any day of the week. So look for me to do some stuff then if I can make time for it. But anyway, thank you, Guy, for watching. Oh, this one other person, but I'm just clearing out. I'm just about ending up here. So I'll release these on YouTube so you guys can enjoy, and have a great rest of your week or President's Day.